Welcome to the World Federation of Colleges and Polytechnics World Congress 2023, happening right here at Quebec, Montreal, Canada. The theme for this conference is Collective Intelligence. The presentation in front of you is basically on technology acceptance and adoption in TVET institutions in Kenya. The presenters are Dr. Maren Omondi, Ms. Nancy Olo, and Mrs. Grace Titi Otieno. First, I would wish to introduce the speakers for this paper presentation. We have the first speaker, Dr. Maren Omondi, who is a seasoned trainer and principal of TVET institutions with wide experience in corporate governance, strategic leadership, financial, and human resource management. She is currently the principal at Ramogi Institute of Advanced Technology, and she holds a PhD in educational psychology. She has held key leadership positions in Kenya Association of Technical Training Institutions and also a board member of a community-based organization. She has participated in many workshops and seminars and also published papers, and she has also been a renowned panel speaker in various conferences. Our second speaker is Mrs. Grace Titi Otieno, who is also a long-serving and experienced trainer in TVET. Currently, she's the Deputy Principal Administration at Butere Technical Vocational College. She is a professional with a high degree of technical skills in textiles and has contributed a lot in the development of textiles training programs. This also includes assessment and entrepreneurial growth in the TVETs at both levels in craft and diploma levels. She is also a PhD student at UNICAP University in Zambia campus. She has contributed a lot in the labor market analysis through surveys and sharing experiences at various conferences. Noting that she's also a certified mastercraft trainer for industry and for the industry, and also a board member of African Foundation for Equality e-Learning in TVET. Grace is also a member of the National Technical Committee implementing the open distance e-learning in Kenyan TVET institutions. She is also a global TVET leader and a 2019 alumni of the UNESCO UNEVOC TVET leadership program that was held in Bonn, Germany, in the sometime in the year 2019. The next presenter is myself, Nancy Olo. I'm also a long-serving TVET trainer in agriculture and environmental studies at Ramogi Institute of Advanced Technology, RIAT in Kenya. I'm also a PhD student at UNICAP University and a member of World Federation for Colleges and Polytechnics. In this membership, I enroll in the SDG category and also in the Applied Research and Affinity Group. I'm also a member of the Organization for Women in Science Development, Mothers in Science, among others. Currently, I'm the Deputy Head of Department for Agriculture and Environmental Studies at RIAT, and also the focal person for gender mainstreaming, Odell Steering Committee member, and I chair the department's income generating activities, and not least, I'm also a master trainer in gender mainstreaming. I have since then developed the institutional gender mainstreaming policy, as well as the open distance e-learning policy, and participated in various research conferences, both regionally and internationally. I have also had some publications and also environmental conservation activities within the region and nationally. In 2018, I was awarded a national honorary award by the World Intellectual Property Organization for creativity, innovation, and social change makers. Currently, I also participated in a training in TVET leadership, and so I also am a global TVET leader with the UNESCO UNEVOC. At this particular point, I believe you have all known us and gotten to know our profiles and who exactly we are, what we do in our various workplaces. And at this particular point, I want to invite Grace Titi Otieno to take us through the background information of TVET institutions in Kenya. Thank you so much. Welcome, Grace.
Thank you very much, Madam Nancy, for the introductions that you have given to the participants. Okay, I'll take the participants through the background information of TVET institutions in Kenya. TVET institutions in Kenya have come a long way. And currently, the total number of these institutions, both public and private, stands at 2,348. These institutions are widespread and they are in all the constituencies within the country. The public institutions are strategically placed in each and every constituency within Kenya, and the current enrollment stands at 594 trainees by the year 2020. In these institutions, the learning approaches that have been adopted are blended learning. That means both face-to-face and online learning. The face-to-face approaches are employed in all TVET institutions, while specific institutions have equally adopted blended learning, of which they have integrated both online and classroom learning. In the online learning, the TVET institutions are implementing it with business courses and the theory lessons that are within the technical courses which are offered in the TVET institutions. Basically, the government of Kenya has played a key role in facilitating TVET institutions so that they can reach where they have reached. A number of TVET institutions have been constructed. This is from zero to have an increase in accessibility. Equally, the government has improved in infrastructure by establishing centers of excellence and equipping these particular workshops. You find that some institutions are centers of excellence in electrical, while others are in centers of excellence in building construction. Others are centers of excellence in institutional management, while others are centers of excellence even in agriculture. This has really improved the training in these particular institutions. The government is equally supporting trainees in the payment of fees through government capitation and improved higher education learning schemes. And through TVETA, standards and guidelines have been developed for ODEL, which has been used to implement and initiate ODEL centers within institutions. The government has further formed a national ODEL committee, and the committee are mandated to facilitate the implementation of ODEL in all the TVET institutions. While on the side of TVET institutions, they have been mandated to ensure increased access to quality education amidst any training disruption that may arise or in cases of inadequate infrastructure. This has really helped TVET institutions because they no longer cry for classrooms since some of the units are offered online. TVET institutions have also been mandated to form institutional ODEL committees to implement ODEL within those particular institutions. They are also supposed to develop an institutional implementation plan, which they use to implement and introduce technology-enabled learning that is flexible and blended. The institutions have also been requested to facilitate capacity building of trainers on the use of technology-enabled learning. They are also supposed to develop their own learning management systems or module platforms which they use for training. And finally, they are supposed to develop administrative workflows, which was, I'll now take the baton back to Nancy to continue taking us through the technological changes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Grace, for that wonderful background information on making us, the viewers and all the participants in this Congress to be able to get the glimpse of how TVET institutions operate in Kenya, and basically what is narrowed down to the various stakeholders. And in line with this, definitely this study was conducted in the year 2022, and A lot has been done on technology, a lot has improved, a lot moved from the state of traditional aspects to a lot of technological aspects. Basically, when COVID-19 struck and learning was disrupted in most of the institutions all over the world, not even in Kenya alone. But I want to believe that most of the institutions, even in those other countries, were able to pick some key points and strategies that they're able to put in place to ensure that technology is adopted and accepted in their various countries. However, I want to say that in Kenya, we have several technological changes that have taken place, and Kenya has embraced industrialization to transform its economic structure by offering quality skills training through TVET institutions with the main aim to increase employability of graduates that matches the industry needs. You realize that without having a skills gap analysis and labor matching analysis with TVET institutions, sometimes institutions end up graduating trainees that don't match the industry and that are not able to adjust to the current industrial needs. So in this strategic goal overview, that is basically on this slide, we can be able to see that education has basically moved from 3.0 all the way to 5.0 in a span of several years. But again, I want to reiterate that at the beginning, when education began, we were at the level of 1.0, and countries have upscaled themselves. At the point of 1.0, a lot of traditional methods were being used where the trainer was the key person, and so it was trainer-centered kind of teaching and training. However, after that, research was introduced, and several institutions, several partners, several trainees and trainers are able to research using the various Google search engines, and that means technology has moved. And from there, the collaboration has basically been able to take place, partnerships and linkages. And so there's a lot of community service happening at the level of 3.0. Now, what brings us to our current technological changes is basically education 4.0 that has taken us to 5.0, where we are talking about industrialization. And this has basically been able to help us to achieve several sustainable development goals due to the fact that most countries have adopted this system of industrialization. Now, this study was conducted in 2022, as I said earlier, and the study used the technology acceptance model according to Davis, 1983, and some variables were interrogated, the perceived usefulness of the technology as one of the variables, and the perceived use of the technology as one of the variables. That basically takes us to get to understand and actually investigate on how useful is the technology that is currently in play, how useful is it in our TVET institutions, and basically even for our graduates as they plan to get employed or self-employed. How easy is the technology being used? Is it so difficult? Is it so complex? And all this is narrowed down to the attitude of the various stakeholders. But at the end of it, definitely we are looking at what is the intention, what is the behavioral intention of the various stakeholders. Are they willing to adopt the technology, or they are not willing to adopt the technology? Which basically leads us into the actual usage of technology. Are we using the technology, or are we not using the technology as TVET institutions all over the world? And this gives us an opportunity to look into what findings did the study have? What are those things that the study was able to convey and relay? And you can basically see that we have COVID-19 bringing a lot of significant change in the management strategies for technology acceptance and adoption in TVET institutions. This did not leave out the trainers and trainees who are basically compelled to adopt training methods with less physical contact to reduce COVID-19 transmission. Funds were also diversified to improve infrastructure that can support working remotely, also to reduce COVID-19 transmission. And the health officials were incorporated into the boards of management to ensure that they check out on the safety and the well-being of the stakeholders, that is, and basically those involved in this within the specific institutions. Those are the workers, the trainers, and every other person involved. The health officials were there to ensure that they had good health status and good hygiene was maintained. Not to forget that ODEL committees were also supported by ensuring that they were facilitated to be capacity built. And equally, the ODEL committees also capacity built the trainers within their various institutions. And decision making was also decentralized, being that now different stakeholders had different roles, and each of the stakeholders had what to strategies to come up with and which areas to make decisions on. And this basically led to the introduction of pandemic-specific policies and practices to facilitate learning. The well-being and safety of workers was also prioritized since it was important to make sure that transmission was at minimum levels, and so a lot of issues to do with social distancing, even after post-COVID-19. When learning started coming back slowly and slowly, institutions still had to do a lot of social distancing, sanitizing, wearing of masks, washing of hands, and there were specific hand washing points created that were basically adaptable to the community. And not living out that, the institutions basically also in Kenya opted to conduct pandemic-related training to support remote working during the COVID-19 and the post-COVID-19. All these findings could not go into loss or could not go into just wait like that without talking about the analyzed data. And so here we are, the study analyzed data on the training delivery methods that were basically used before the COVID-19 pandemic and after the COVID-19 pandemic. If you're able to see the screen, and also those who are able to hear, I believe you're able to get it clear from us, and you're also able to see clearly from us that before the COVID-19 pandemic, the study revealed that face-to-face was the most commonly used method of training at that time at the rate of 94.7%. While after the COVID-19, the face-to-face reduced to 23.7% because as technology was being brought on board, many TVET institutions opted to go to blended learning, whereby now you can be able to attest to it that after COVID-19, blended learning rose to 60.5%, while before COVID-19, it was at 18.4%, meaning most of the TVET institutions and the trainers were basically engaging more on the face-to-face methods, the traditional methods that were there before, and even the online classes had not really picked up before the COVID-19, as to why they have 7.9%. But after the COVID-19, the percentage rose to 68.4%, and that is a good attest to show that the society, the stakeholders, the TVET institutions are embracing technology and trying to adopt to the technologies that have been able to come up. Distance learning was also not a thing of the community, and currently after COVID-19, it was realized that it was not a must for a trainee to be in class. It was not a must for someone to really be in class to be taught, and so distance learning also increased and went to the level of 23.7%. Just to show us the various technology-enabled platforms that were adopted after the COVID-19, we have this graph that that shows us clearly what the study found out. And basically, Microsoft Teams seemed to win the day at 86.5%, followed by WhatsApp, which was at 59.5%, and Zoom, which was at 45.9%. This does not mean that other methods were not used. Skype was also being used, but very minimally, because people still could not be able to understand how Skype can be used for training. And so only 2.7% adopted and accepted to use Skype. We also have the Moodle platforms was also at 8.1%. The trainers and the TVET institutions were still in the process of being capacity built on how to use these platforms. And there are many other platforms that could have been used, and that was basically at the rate of 13.5%. This study was conducted in 2022, and I want to believe now in 2023, some of these percentages have been able to move upwards since a lot is being put in place. I just want to bring back Grace on board so that she can be able to take us through what the study found out in terms of what was the perception of the TVET institutions, perception of the community in terms of the benefits and the challenges that technology has brought on board. So it would be wise to get to know what the stakeholders also say about the benefits and the challenges that we have. Welcome, Grace.
Thank you, Madam Nancy. Okay, from the study, it was established that amidst the challenges which were faced by both the trainers and the trainees, there were benefits which were identified. They established that there is ease of accessing information by both the trainers and the trainees, since they can easily browse and source for relevant information that are needed. Trainees are more engaged and helps them to retain information, since most of the information they are sourcing, they are getting it by themselves. So they keep it and use it for reference in the future. Multiple learning styles are accommodated. From the graph you have just seen above, there were different methods which were adopted, and each and every institution tried to use at least more than one or two of those methods. Collaborations were encouraged among TVET institutions. Those who have already developed were collaborating with those who are coming up so that they can come to a middle level. Instant feedback from trainees was provided, since most of the institutions were using LMS, and trainers had easy time by getting information or feedback from the trainees. While on challenges, inadequate infrastructure and internet connectivity was experienced by some institutions, since some institutions are remotely placed and they don't have the resources of internet like the ones which are in town. Lack of relevant skills by trainers and trainees on the use of LMS or module platform, since this is a new thing which has come and they have to be trained so that they can use it appropriately. Lack of relevant skills by trainers in content development, since they have to convert the notes they have been using to teach to make them to be soft and can be uploaded into the LMS. Limited training resources was also experienced by some institutions, since they have to keep on capacity building trainers. And finally, there was a lot of resistance to change, since many of the trainers and the trainees had reached their comfortable zones and they were not ready to change to other methods of training. Then on sustainability measures for acceptance, the study found that it was important to identify areas which needs to be continuously developed in order to make this innovation acceptable and sustainable by TVET institutions. So it found that there should be continuous capacity building on modular platform navigation and content development by trainers. Then there should be continuous benchmarking of colleges in order to develop competence in matters of online training with those colleges that are already competent. Since there are a number of institutions which are coming up, there will be continuous benchmarking. Facilitating the National ODEL technical team to roll out courses on the national LMS. Kenya has developed a national LMS, which is being accessed by all TVET institutions in the country. So the content developed will be used like OER by TVET institutions across the country. Continuous training on change management is also necessary, since change is a continuous process and people accept it at different levels. In conclusion, there has been a significant change in the management strategies, because many things have been identified as things which have changed, and the progress is positive. There has been a significant surge in the usage of online platforms, and different methods which have been applied have been identified. Digital learning has adopted the existing curriculum aligned with the education system's broader educational goals. So this confirms that as much as things are changing, the educational goals are still maintained and the curriculum is aligned to the existing system. Intensified use of blended learning approaches was also realized, as confirmed by the data which has been portrayed on the screen. The study therefore recommends that the Ministry of Education can assist institutions that lack ICT infrastructure and internet connectivity by providing the same. There is need for blended approach in training business and theory lessons for technical courses. Courses which does not require practicals can blend. Management strategies should be diversified to enhance preparedness, investing in infrastructure and technology to support working remotely in case of any other arising pandemic. Need for preparedness so that we don't be caught unawares. Learning resources strategy should be developed among TVET institutions to realize better approach to everything that is done within the TVET. The study also recommends the establishment of virtual labs and simulation devices, which can be used for training to reduce the cost of buying practical materials. Institutions should explore more comprehensive delivery methods in training. And finally, future studies are encouraged to be conducted on the effectiveness of technology-enabled learning in TVET institutions and the management strategies employed in achieving the same. Thank you very much for listening to us, and you are allowed to share any question, any concern through the emails provided. Thank you, Madam Nancy, back to you.
Thank you very much, Grace, and thank you participants and attendees for this conference for basically listening to us on this presentation. We are really, we are full of gratitude that you came and you're able to listen to us and get to understand how technology has been accepted and adopted in TVET institutions in Kenya. This cannot go without saying that we believe this is just a sample of TVET institutions. A lot could have happened in other countries, and being a World Congress conference, we would appreciate if we also get comments and comments and questions from the participants. Our email addresses are as indicated above, and you could easily also reach out to us. We are also linked to the networking session, the B2B sessions, where we'll also be able to interact and network together and see areas in which we can partner with, areas which we can borrow ideas, areas which we can collaborate and ensure that TVET institutions are doing very well and have accepted technology. And this does not mean that all the studies have been closed, just like my colleague Grace has said. The other presenter has basically mentioned that we have room for future studies in just getting to survey, well, how is it sustainable? How is it currently? And what still needs to be done? Thank you very much.